Am I the a-hole for choosing to live in a city which will make it nearly impossible for my ex to see his child? I, 28 female, got divorced from my ex-husband John, 38 male, of 6 years in June this year. In 2019, I was diagnosed with PCOS and after multiple treatments and many complications, was told that I probably wouldn't be able to have a child naturally. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years, and as expected, this devastated us. Our marriage suffered because while I eventually made my peace with the situation, John couldn't seem to get past it. I suggested fostering and adoption, but his heart wasn't in it anymore. After months of hostility, zero intimacy, and withdrawn affection, we asked for couples therapy. He responded that he'd rather have a divorce. He said he'd been checked out for a while and there was no point dragging things out. I was heartbroken, and it didn't help that I was stuck living with him throughout the lockdown. I eventually accepted the end of our marriage, and as we went through the divorce process, I prepared for the move back to my hometown across the country. Shortly before I moved out, we slept together. I know. It was an impulsive mistake, fueled by alcohol and loneliness, and he made sure I knew it meant nothing. Anyway, I eventually moved back and it's been wonderful. I'd forgotten how much I love being near my family and friends. I was slowly adjusting to single life when I found out that I am pregnant. Yep, I know, right? What are the chances? I told John about the pregnancy and he was over the moon. But for some reason, he assumed that I would be moving back to live with him. When I told him that I have no intention of moving back, but rather raising our child in my hometown, he lost his mind and accused me of trying to keep our child from him out of spite. I told him that he could move if he wanted to be closer to his child, but he insisted that he wouldn't be able to find work out here, that it made more sense for me to move back because I've only been at my new job a few weeks, and it wouldn't be as much of a sacrifice as leaving the job that he's had for 11 years. He offered to pay for the move, a new apartment, etc., but I turned it down and explained that if I stay, I'll be able to keep working because my family's here to support me. And that mom and sisters have already been such a big help with finding a place to stay, preparing for baby, seasoned mom advice, moral and emotional support, and so I feel more confident having them around. If I moved back, I would essentially have to be a stay-at-home mom, which I really don't want. He told his family about the baby without warning me, and now I'm being bombarded with criticism from every direction and being threatened with legal action for alienating them from baby. I don't see why I should be the one to compromise after having to up and move my whole life the way I did. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. John is only interested in you as a broodmare. Get a lawyer, and get a custody agreement in writing, and get child support. Do not do anything that would make you dependent on John. Yeah, the scariest part of the offer is that he wants Opie to be dependent on him. That just flat out isn't safe for Opie given how he's behaved, and his complete disinterest in Opie's well-being. And if it's not in her best interest, then it's not in the kid's either. Frankly, I don't think the kid would benefit from having this guy take on a more active parenting role regardless. Someone who treats a spouse like a broodmare is also going to treat their kid like some other kind of object. A trophy, a cudgel against Opie, nothing good. So let's get this straight. When he couldn't get what he wanted, he straight up tossed Opie to the curb because he checked out of their marriage. So she had to append her entire life. And now that she's pregnant, he expects her to do it again to make his life more convenient? Opie, do what's best for you and your baby, which should include getting a lawyer to sort out custody and child support as someone else mentioned. Also, congrats. NTA, NTA, NTA. Oh my word, the unmitigated gall of this guy is insane. Tell him to find a different surrogate and to leave you alone. He tossed you aside when you didn't get pregnant and now wants you to sacrifice everything to be his new nanny to your own child. Of course, his family's behaving like this. They're the ones that helped create that monster. I'm just so glad you were back home with your loving and supporting family just in time. Congratulations on your baby and happy holidays with true family. If his family is getting aggressive with you, block them. He ended a relationship. Sounds like he honestly doesn't even want a relationship. Just a baby. Red flag for that. You moved, you started a new life. He can move or not. He made the choice to not be in a relationship with you. He can be the one to move. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my brother-in-law out for his weaponized incompetence and calling him pathetic at dinner? I, female 24, have a sister, female 32, who has a husband, male 38, who is the poster child of weaponized incompetence. They have 4 kids, Female 10, male 8, male 5, female 3, and she's pregnant. My sister works a full-time job, 40 plus hours a week, cleans her entire house, cooks, takes care of all her children, without him doing anything. It is seriously mind-blowing that she wakes up like 4 a.m., cooks breakfast, does chores, gets all of her kids ready for school, takes them all to school and daycare, and all he does is stay home and work. And when his kids get home, after my sister picks them up of course, he will play with them for a little and play video games until he falls asleep. And she actually makes more than him. My fiancé, male 26, and I had to stay with them for 6 weeks while our home was being renovated. And since we both work from home, we helped her, and it is amazing how much happier she is when she has help. I helped with the kids, and my fiancé even drove her to doctor's appointments. Her husband literally only acknowledges he is a parent when his family's around. Then he is a God-fearing, hard-working father of 5. He's the one that wanted more kids. She wanted to stop after her last baby, but he needed more boys. I am seriously concerned, not only for her, but her kids as well. Because now her oldest is seeing what's happening and trying to help. But my sister is prideful and refuses to let her child do anything. Me and this man have never gotten along. He's been acting like this since their 8-year-old was born. I've tried talking to her about leaving, but she doesn't want her kids to grow up in a broken home. And unfortunately, her experience with our parents' divorce was completely different than mine, so she doesn't understand that a divorce would benefit her kids here because she thinks they need their mom and dad together. Cut to this past weekend, her and her husband threw a pre-Thanksgiving potluck, where our entire family plus his was there. I stayed with my sister a few days before because I knew he wouldn't help. So, we're at dinner all talking, and I mentioned we are trying for a baby, and my brother-in-law makes an offhanded comment to him about how hard fatherhood is. I snapped and said, like you would know. He looked taken aback and asked me what I meant, and I unloaded on him, calling him a pathetic excuse for a man who makes my 8 months pregnant sister do everything for their family. I went off for a solid 10 minutes, and he sat there shrinking in a seat. I left. Last night, my sister called me and thanked me for standing up for her, and told me she appreciated me. Although today I got a very nasty text from him telling me I'm a terrible person, and that because I lied in front of his family, his mom is angry at him and is moving in with them to help her out, and that I've made him the laughingstock of his family. He certainly thinks so, but am I the a-hole for doing this? His mom is angry at him and is moving in with them to help her out, and it all becomes clear. Not the a-hole. Behind every incompetent man is a mother who did everything for him. Lol. Someone is just pissy because he is being forced to put on his big boy undies. While your timing was not the greatest, he needed to hear it. Besides, isn't Thanksgiving the time of year we all have big blowouts with a crazy family member? Not only did you speak the truth to a guy with learned helplessness, you also seem to have gotten some positive help for your sister. Seriously, if he's that bad, he deserves to be a laughingstock. Maybe that will bring some more positive change, whether it's his finally helping or your sister leaving him. Not even a justified a-hole as some comments suggest. You had a breaking point and he was taking credit for the children's upbringing that your sister single-handedly should be thanked for. He knows he isn't wrong, which is why he sat quietly and kept pretending in front of his family. He would have driven your sister into an early grave. His true colors are bound to come out sooner or later when his mother has moved in. He will not be able to pull the facade forever. When that happens, he will either have to change properly or risk losing the support of his family. All of it started with you speaking up for your sister against his lies. Well done. Next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother and his girlfriend to terminate? So I'm a 24-year-old who moved out of their parents' place a couple years back. My parents are terrible people and were very cruel to me and my brother growing up. I very much enjoyed the space to myself, and it has been the only time in my life I've truly felt safe. My twin brother, Zach, didn't move out and was also pretty miserable living with my parents. Then about 8 months ago, he asked if he and his girlfriend, Kat, could stay with me for a while, as he started school a couple years after me and isn't financially in a place where he can afford his own place. Knowing how awful my parents are, and how much of a good guy and gal Zach and Kat are, it really wasn't much of a decision. I just told them to chip in when they can, and as long as I'm not paying for their food or anything like that, it's chill for the time being. Things have been fine, and Zach and Kat have been nothing but respectful to me and my place. The place is on the smaller side, but Zach is usually at school or work, and Kat works a good amount of the time, so I'm not usually super bothered by it. Their plan is to move out once Zach graduates, which will probably be 2023 at the rate is going. So I'd most likely be living with them another year and a half to 2 years. Now that wasn't much of an issue to me as they don't really have anywhere to go, and I totally get not wanting to move back in with our parents. The thing is though, about a week back they revealed to me they were pregnant. While I think it's awesome, and I'm excited for them, this severely throws a wrench into our living arrangement. I really can't deal with a baby living with us for the extended future. I'm someone who's very sensitive to noises and suffers insomnia. So a crying baby would literally make my life hell on earth. When I asked them what they were planning on doing, they said they were going to keep it as Kat doesn't believe in abortion. And they feel as if they'd make good parents. They definitely would. They're great people. I said, oh well, congrats then. We ended a conversation there for that night. The next day, I asked them what their plans were for housing in the near future, as they know about my sleeping condition and how I'd feel with a baby/toddler in the house. They said they'd have to stay here as they didn't really have anywhere else to go. I told them that won't be happening for reasons stated earlier. They both got very upset and accused me of forcing them to terminate their baby. Now for the comments. Not stay home. That's their problem. You've stated your boundaries clearly, and if that doesn't match up with their beliefs, then they can find another way to manage. You didn't sign up to living with your kid. I'm super confused as to how they both work, one of them full-time, but can't rent a place themselves. Opie's posts make it seem like they don't have any other option, but surely they should be able to afford to rent even a studio apartment on 1.5 incomes. 1.5 incomes who haven't had to pay for real rent for the past few months, that should at least have gotten their deposit and first/last month covered. If it's so dire that they're not even covering their should-be expenses, full rent, utilities, food and wear and tear and stuff, they're not in a place to have a kid. You weren't forcing them to do anything. They can have their baby. They just can't do it while living with you. If their family planning is based on being able to live with you rent-free for the foreseeable future, then they can't afford to have a baby. You agreed to house them rent-free for over 2 years, which was incredibly generous, but this is a boundary for you, and they need to accept that and stop blaming you for their financial situation. Living with a baby is a lot, especially if the baby isn't yours. You have done nothing wrong here. They just can't do it while living with you. For free. You did not force them to copulate. You did not force them to not use birth control. You're not forcing them to have a termination. This is 100% the result of their actions and decisions, and it's on them to deal with the consequences. If they need housing suitable for a pregnant woman and later a baby, that's what they need. And it's not a thing you offered or even can offer to them. If Zach wants to be a dad, he needs to earn enough money to be a dad to support his partner and child. If Kat wants to be a mom, she needs someone who'll provide shelter and food and everything else she and the baby will need, at the very least for however long she'll be off work having and raising the baby. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she should be thankful my daughter only called the cops and didn't press charges on her? I've been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 20-year-old daughter and she and my wife were never able to form a strong bond, and one of the reasons for that is distance. My wife did try to get close to my daughter in the past, but my daughter claimed she was just attempting to control her, rather than have a respectful relationship with her. They had past issues, but now get along a bit. My daughter was visiting for Thanksgiving and brought her Honda car with her. I was out of the house when my wife, whose car been sitting in the garage for a month now, took my daughter's car keys without her permission while she was showering and left in it for nearly 2 hours. My daughter called me as soon as she got out of the bathroom and was freaking out, saying neither her car or my wife was there. I tried to calm her down as I tried to get a hold of my wife, but she did not respond. We at this point figured my wife took the car, but did not know where she was or when she was coming back. My daughter searched my wife's closet, then called the cops and reported her car taken. She called back to tell me my wife's closet was half empty, and cops were called. I got off work and went home immediately, and on the way home my wife called crying because she just picked up by the cops at Walmart and was brought into the station. I went over there and met my daughter there. We discussed what happened, and it turned out my wife took the car to go do some shopping and left my daughter a note in the kitchen to let her know since she doesn't have her number, and took clothes from her closet she packed earlier in the morning for church donations. But my daughter thought she ran away and told the cops that this woman, my wife, ran away with her car. My daughter got her car back, and my wife was let go after filling out a form. I took her home, and that is where she had a fight with my daughter, calling her crazy for calling the cops on her and few other things I can't remember. But I told my wife what she did was unacceptable, and she should be grateful my daughter only called the cops in a moment of panic and did not press charges after what she did. My wife was shocked and started crying, saying she couldn't believe I sided with my daughter after she humiliated her and caused her panic and to be involved with the cops like that. I stated that she should have not touched that key in the first place, and she defended herself, saying she was getting things done and buying stuff we needed for the house, but we made her out to be the bad guy. She left her sister's place, saying she had enough of my daughter's disgraceful and vindictive attitude towards her, and said she'll stay there indefinitely or until I get my priorities straight. Because after what happened, she's no longer sure if she is my wife or whether she was treated as such. Edit. My wife's car isn't working and has been in the garage for a while now. That is why she took my daughter's car. Not today home. Gotta be honest, my first thought is your wife might have tried to arrange a situation for you to get mad at your daughter and make her stay away even more. Now she's just upset it backfired. Did you actually find a note in the kitchen? Seems pretty much like that. She didn't ask for permission before using the car, did not call or send a text because she doesn't have her number, which explains how close they are and why she shouldn't be taking someone's car whom she doesn't even have a contact info of, and then leaving a note in the kitchen. Could have attended her husband's call or sent him a text that she was taking the car. Looks like she got herself into the trap that she set. Not having stepdaughter's number also shows how little she cares about the father/daughter relationship. What if something happened to dad? How could she contact daughter? What if she wanted to plan a birthday thing for husband? Like, how do you not want the number of your spouse's children just in case?